Hello there, Salim Omar here from the CPA Marketing Genius podcast. I'm super excited to have a special guest, somebody I've known for the past decade. He's an authority in text resolution, teaches, mentors others on how to create profitable, lucrative text resolution services in their practice. His name is Jason Bowman. Jason, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Salim. I really appreciate it.
Jason, let's start with your story. How did you get started in text resolution?
I'll give you the super short version as best I can. So unlike a lot of folks, I did not originally come from the accounting or tax profession. I effectively stumbled into this career. It is the best stumble that I've ever made in my life, thank goodness. So back in late 2007, I was a real estate agent and a real estate investor. And if anybody was around back then, you know what was going on in the real estate world in particular, which then led to a overall crash of the global financial system. So my life as a real estate agent came to a crashing halt. I lost my rental properties. I lost projects I had going on. I ended up in Chapter 7 bankruptcy and literally living in a van down by the river. So while I was homeless, I ended up taking whatever work I could, which for the in January of 2008 ended up being a part-time job at a Jackson Hewitt kiosk inside of a Walmart doing tax returns evenings and weekends. And then a friend of mine had just gotten a job at a tax resolution firm in the Denver area and brought me in for an interview. They liked me, thank goodness, and they hired me on for $10 an hour as an admin assistant. So I took these jobs because I just needed money. I just needed to work. I needed to put food on the dashboard, as I like to say. And so long story short, I learned the business over a period of 6 months or so. Then they moved me over to an operations and marketing role. And then over a period of 17 months, I took this small, kind of mom and pop tax resolution firm from doing about $750,000 a year in revenue and 6 employees to over 40 employees and $3.2 million a year. And we did that growth in less than a year and a half. Then after being at the company for about another year, I decided that, being an entrepreneur, wanted to do my own thing, run my own firm. So I went into private practice, grew my own firm from zero to $35,000 a month in MRR in less than a year, which I thought was a pretty good clip for, just starting out. And then I decided that I wanted to travel around the world like an international man of mystery and went and ran a boutique practice remote, back before remote was cool, like it is now. And traveled around the world for 3 years running my practice, came back to the US and started real estate investing again, started a CPE company, started a software company, and then other things just kind of took off from there. So that's the short version.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal story from sleeping in your van to starting a lifestyle text resolution business that evolved into teaching thousands of practice owners how they can do this in their own practice. So why should an accountant that's not providing text resolution services currently, why should they consider adding this new service?
That's one of my favorite questions. I'm glad you asked that. It's, sometimes practitioners have this like a negative view towards taxpayer representation, be it audit representation or collections. And I've never really understood that, but I think I also kind of maybe have a biased view since it's where I came into the industry as a whole. But there's so many practitioners that they don't want to touch this kind of work because they think that it's that they can't get anything done with the IRS, or they think that the clients are, quote unquote, deadbeats, and that they can't pay their fee, all this stuff. And yeah, those people are out there. But the reality is the vast majority of tax debtors, they're just people that fell in hard times. They're folks that are smart, hardworking. They just got beaten up by the economy. They just had a business failure through maybe no fault of their own, and bad things happen to good people all the time, right? And so that's actually the majority of folks out there. So that's the first thing I want to say is don't be afraid of doing tax resolution work just because you have this skewed view of what the clients might be like. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to say. But really, there's a lot of advantages to doing resolution work for the practitioner. So, for example, it's one of the most lucrative things that you can do with your license. It is compliance. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is compliance work, but it's compliance work that is high fee compared to low fee. A typical tax resolution case, you're looking at fees in the mid four figures, and some of them do go up towards the 5-figure range. So it tends to be one of the highest dollar per hour activities that a CPA, enrolled agent, even a tax attorney in private practice can do, because it's fees in the several $100 an hour range. It also, I think that as practitioners, I think we all want to help people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this line of work. And part of my thing is that as practitioners, we have to do what we can to help the world not get screwed over. And there are so many unscrupulous tax resolution firms out there, these big, giant, kind of fly-by-night tax resolution firms that are out there, and they're scamming people. And they've been ripping people off for decades. And so as practitioners, I think I won't go so far as to say we have a responsibility to do this, but I think it does behoove us and the country as a whole if we do this kind of work to help people out so that they aren't getting taken in by the scummy companies. Okay, so that's another thing. So high fees, plenty of goodwill to be gained from it. There is also a lot of work. So some folks say, oh, there's just not a whole lot of this work out there. Well, we started fiscal year 2020 with over 8.5 million active collections cases. What's interesting is that's about 3.5 million less than in a typical year. Why did that happen? Well, because IRS shut down all their collections activities for, April 1st through the end of September last year in 2020 because of the pandemic. So, and even some of their other collections activities remained suspended, primarily a lot of lien filings and a lot of your campus collections notices. Well, in the summer of 2021, those notices, the printers are going burr again. And those collections notices are coming out from the IRS. And so people are getting hammered by these IRS collections notices. So anytime we come out of an economic circumstance that's negative, there is inevitably going to be an increase in the number of tax debtors because there are always going to be people that fell in hard times during the recessionary period. Okay. So even though we started the fiscal year with only 8.5 million active collections cases, I'm estimating that that's already skyrocketed up by another 3 to 4 million cases. And so, and I think it's going to get worse. Remember last year, there was that deferral of payroll tax deposits. Remember that?
Yeah.
And folks have until December 31st, 2021 to pay half, and then the December 31st of 2022 to pay the other half. Well, there's still a lot of businesses that are hurting from the pandemic. those folks are going to miss those payments. There's millions of those businesses that are going to be future collections cases. Bottom line, this is something that's already big and it's just getting bigger. Okay. So there's plenty of clients out there to be had. The other thing that I think is really important for accountants to understand is that resolution is not a siloed thing. When you have a resolution client, you're probably going to have some tax prep to do. You're probably going to have some accounting work to do. You're going to have, at a minimum, some QuickBooks cleanup because a lot of them have poor record keeping. You're going to have tax planning. You're going to have financial coaching, budgeting and things of that nature for families. You may need to put them onto payroll. You may need to do some expense reduction consulting for businesses, advisory. There's all these other things that go into resolution, and all these other things are things you get paid for, right? And so it's not just the standalone resolution case. Whether it's an individual or a business, there are service upsells that come with those cases. And so resolution can be a wonderful way to fill the pipeline for some of your other services, such as financial planning, tax planning, advisory, etc. So those are my big thoughts on why accountants should get into resolution.
Yeah, super good. Awesome. What big trends do you see happening in text resolution right now?
Well, like I said, the there's a lot going on, obviously, and again, not to keep harping on COVID, but it's an obvious, the fallout from the pandemic is an obvious thing that we're all dealing with. The economy is dealing with it. Small businesses and individuals are dealing with it. So everybody at every level is experiencing something from the pandemic, and obviously that's going to impact what happens in the tax world. So I already mentioned with those as part of the relief programs in 2020, there's going to be a side effect of some of those relief efforts. They're actually going to come back around to create new resolution clients. So that's a big trend. We're going to see a swell in the number of available clients. Okay, that's a huge one. But there's other really exciting stuff. We're seeing so many practitioners now that are finally embracing doing this kind of work. Like I said earlier, there's always been this stigma against doing resolution work, especially for CPAs. I feel, and that stigma I feel is finally starting to break away. And so we're seeing more practitioners that are doing resolution work, which I think is a wonderful thing. I think it's an absolutely wonderful thing to see. Because like I said, it helps take business away from those kind of fly-by-night resolution companies. Another really big thing that I'm excited about, and again, pushed by the pandemic, but the IRS has been rolling out new digital options for customer service. And they're doing so at a very accelerated pace. Now, maybe I'm just a nerd, but that's exciting to me, right? With the IRS finally exploring some digital signature options, with them finally, bringing back, an online authorization system, at least for individuals, so we can get our powers of attorney done faster. Hopefully they'll be rolling back out some version of the electronic account resolution program that was shut down several years ago. I think we're working towards a new version of that. Simple things like the ability now to use the online payment agreement OPA tool to modify payment dates and change installment agreement monthly payment amount. Little things like that the IRS is doing. They're actually great. There's been some procedural changes at the IRS where they're allowing customer service reps to work on a broader range of cases, giving them greater authority to set people up into payment plans and moving closer to this theoretical, one call resolution thing that we all dream of. So the IRS embracing cross training and expansion of customer service rep authority to make that a reality. So these are some great things that I think that are happening. Obviously, there's room to grow, room to improve, both at the IRS and within our own world, both in how we operate, the technology we use. There's always going to be room to grow, but it's great to see that there's so much progress being made, and I think that practitioners that are interested in doing this kind of work, they're going to find that now is a better time to jump into doing so than even like 5 years ago, just because of the technologies and some of the things the IRS is doing to try to make it easier to do business with them. So those are some great trends. I'm really excited about the future of resolution in general.
Yeah, this is great. Now, so you've got a listener, a practice owner listening to this and saying, all right, I get it. I understand text resolution is going to stay, and it's going to, it's going to play a big part in a firm's revenue service mix. How does one bring clients? What are some simple, and I don't know if they're simple, but what are some marketing strategies that a practice owner can use right now to find these clients?
I'm glad you're asking about marketing. That's obviously a topic you and I can geek out on for hours on end if we wanted to. I'll say three things about that just to limit my time. I know you don't want to ramble for hours here. But the first thing I'll say on this has to do with tax liens. There's a lot of people that hear about resolution, and it doesn't take them that much reading. They read a book, they attend one of my webinars, somebody else's webinar, they read a few blog posts, and they immediately go, the tax liens, the resolution money, the clientele is in the tax liens. And there was a point in time where that was true. It was easier to grow a resolution firm a decade ago because there were so many more tax liens being filed. But in 2012, along with the IRS Fresh Start program, the IRS changed the filing threshold for a lien from 5,000 to 10,000. And so that dropped a lot of liens off. The IRS has a budget crunch and has for years, and they have to pay local filing fees to file a notice of federal tax lien. And so they don't have as much money to file those anymore. Last year, as part of the COVID relief effort, they just stopped filing them altogether for 4 months. And so last year, there were only 291,000 notices of federal tax lien filed in fiscal year 2020. And that number had been going down for years. So that's the first thing I want to say is, yes, tax lien marketing can still be highly effective, but in today's era, less than about 3 or 4% of all tax debtors actually have a notice of federal tax lien filed against them. Okay. And that's the only thing on public record that exists that says this person owes taxes. It's the only list. Okay. But if less than 4% of people have their name on that list, it's not that great of a list to market to anymore. Okay. So that's the one caveat is I want to say the thing that you shouldn't necessarily do. It can still work, but don't automatically think tax liens as your primary source of marketing. Instead, what I want you to think about is to what I said earlier, that stigma about doing this kind of work. There's still a lot of practitioners that don't want to. Or that they think there's somehow something wrong or whatever with doing this kind of work, which there isn't. That shell is breaking, thank goodness, but there's still enough practitioners out there that don't want to do resolution, that one of your best sources of clients is other accountants. Okay. So I get some pushback on this occasionally. because people want to say, oh, no EA or CPA is going to refer a client to another EA or CPA. Reality is we do it all the time. Okay. We may just not think of it as for a direct tax service, but you do it all the time for financial planning and insurance and stuff like that, right? So the reality is that we should all do what we do best in order to bring solutions to our client. And sometimes the best solution is not for us to do the work, but to go find another expert for them that we bring in and that does that part of whatever we're doing for them. Okay. Tax resolution can be one of those things. And you can be the practitioner that gets those referrals. Okay. You're not poaching the other practitioner's tax prep or tax planning client. That's not what you're doing. You can even put them on power of attorney with you. If there's any concerns, you can let them handle the billing and then they pay you. There's a variety of different ways that you can alleviate some of the concerns that some practitioners will bring up about this. But absolutely the number one way that you should be getting clients is referrals from other practitioners. And the reason I say this is because according to AI CPA data, less than 10% of CPAs in private practice do representation work. According to National Association of Enrolled Agent data, less than 2% of EAs, less than 2%, do anything that actually requires their EA license. Okay, why have it? I don't know. You don't need it to do tax preparation. So if you're an EA, fix that. Go to these other EAs and CPAs that don't want to do resolution work and do the resolution work. Okay? They will share fees with you. They will refer you the client. It works perfectly fine. So that's the biggest thing is referrals from other tax pros. The other thing that I'll say that is an extremely underutilized marketing strategy is to plug yourself into the organizations, companies, trade groups that service a specific niche. Now, I don't need to tell you, Salim, about the value of choosing a niche and dominating that niche in your business, right? I'm sure you've talked about it on the podcast before. So you pick a niche that you want to serve in resolution. And you want to choose an industry where there is a disproportionately high number of tax debtors. Okay. So think about any industry where people are independent contractors, like the gig economy. So gig workers, real estate agents, anybody that's paid on commission with variable income. A lot of times they don't make their estimated tax payments. So any industry like that, as well as industries that are cash flow sensitive. They get paid in some sort of a trickle down method, or it's an optional type thing. So the construction trades, electricians, plumbers, concrete workers, landscapers, they usually get paid last on a construction project. So they can sometimes have cash crunches. Also anything in hospitality, again, as we've seen through the pandemic, they got hit hard. Okay. They have cash flow problems. Anything in logistics, meaning warehousing and transportation, those can have, cyclical cash flow issues. So any industry or occupation like that, they're going to be a really, really high priority target for you, for your marketing, for resolution. So you go attach yourself to the organizations that serve that profession or industry. So it could be a union. It could be a professional trade organization like we're more familiar with. It could be a marketing group. Okay. There are a ton of different hats that these organizations wear, but think about what they do. They do the exact same thing that NAEA, AICPA, NATP, NSA, all the organizations in our world do. They do conventions. They do seminars. They do Zoom webinars, and they always need speakers. Go speak at these niche industry trade groups, okay? You should be speaking at least once a quarter at your local board of realtors, okay, if that is the niche that you want to serve. Go to their chapter meetings, their mixers, their lunch and learns, those kind of things. Go. A lot of them have newsletters. Write in those newsletters and journals. Immerse yourself in that profession or industry group, and then you become known as the go-to person for tax resolution in that group. If you do that and it's a big enough group, you're never going to run out of referrals. So if you pick the right industry or profession to niche in, and then you speak, write, network, immerse yourself in that industry, trade group, association, whatever, you're never going to run out of leads.
Very good advice, man. 100% solid. Awesome stuff there. Jason, the clock's running. This has gone so fast. It's such a jam-packed session, as always, that you're sharing. We've got I've just got like a minute or so. Two things. I've got a question, and then I'd like for you to share how people can find you. So before you do that, very quickly, rapid fire, 30 seconds or less, three mistakes that you see CPA practice owners make when starting or growing this niche. Very quickly, what are those three mistakes that they should avoid?
Number one, continuing to do low profit margin or low dollar per hour activities. Where I usually see this is in certain types of tax return preparation and also in payroll service. Those lower value services, I encourage people to get rid of them, refer those clients out. Number two is practitioners continuing to do work themselves that is below their pay grade. Meaning, if you're a CPA and you are still answering your own telephone at the office, you need to fix that. You shouldn't be the person answering the phone. You should have an answering service or an admin assistant, something that's answering the phone, just as an example. And then number three would be the niching. The most successful accounting firms that I know of, they all service a niche. If you go to these, fairly large regional accounting firms, that are on the IPA 100 list, most of them are niched. So, for example, one of my favorite examples is Moss Adams. They're the largest public accounting firm on the West Coast. How did they do that? By focusing primarily on two niche industries that they service: construction, real property development industry, and telecom. That's how they built the 12th or 13th largest public accounting firm in the United States, by niching. So if it works for the big firms, what makes us think that, we're so smart that we can be all things to all people? We can't. Okay. So we need to niche. One of the smartest things that I did in my business was to focus on independent trucking firms in 5 Western states. That's where I focused my marketing. I had special programs for them. I dominated that teeny tiny little industry of tax resolution, that teensy piece of resolution, focusing on 2290 taxes that nobody else was focusing on. Okay. And then that led into other services. So niche. Cannot emphasize that enough.
Wonderful. How can people find you?
Well, if you are interested in tax resolution, which I hope you are, I would encourage you to check out taxresolutionacademy.com. And you can find our newsletter, which is free to sign up for. Every Friday, we do a What's What in Resolution, practical insights into how you can apply IRS procedural changes. We track IRM changes for you, things of that nature that you can actually use in your practice, as well as tons of marketing resources. We have the largest active community of resolution practitioners with a variety of program options there, but plenty of free stuff as well. So definitely encourage you to check it out. Again, that's taxresolutionacademy.com.
That's wonderful. Jason, man, I am grateful for you giving us the time, the insights, the knowledge. You're an authority in this space. You've helped so many people build and grow this niche, this service in their industry. So you come not only from a practical experience, but you've been doing this for now the last decade, sharing your stuff, your strategies. So I'm grateful for that as well. And a lot of my members have benefited from your work. So this has been amazing.
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoy the opportunity to be on the show, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Very cool. Take care, man.
Thanks, Salim.
Thanks for listening to the CPA Marketing Genius podcast. If you'd like to hear more episodes, you can find them at cpamarketinggenius.simplecast.com or on your favorite podcast directory. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to learn more about Salim and CPA Marketing Genius, please visit cpamarketinggenius.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the CPA Marketing Genius podcast.